I don't know if this is directly from comic books, but like if you have something tragic happen to you when you're a child, you either live the rest of your life trying to make sure that that doesn't happen to anybody else, or you live the rest of your life punishing the world for what it took from you. So it is interesting. That's in comic books, that's a hero trope.
Yeah.
But it's true.
Yes.
Seemingly true throughout history.
Yeah. Huh. I think the quote you're looking for is "with great power comes great
No, it's not that.
All right, so now on to...
That was good. Welcome back to Stuff That We Like / Enjoy, at least at this point in time. I'm Caleb.
And I'm Christina.
We're the Castanettas, and today we're doing something very special. What are we doing, Christina?
We are starting the focus of season 9, which is Heroes of History.
Heroes of History.
Yes, we figured we'd switch it up. We were thinking about doing cults, and we're like, nah, we just did 3 months on villains.
Yeah.
You know, let's do something a bit more uplifting in life. So do you want to explain to our lovely audience what we're defining a hero as?
That's a great question. And one I was not prepared for, so I'm going to try to remember on the spot. I think number one, they had to have made a positive impact in this life, not just in the afterlife. If they're a Christian, you know, they saved a lot of souls. We're talking about positive social impact in this life. That's one of them, right?
I like that. Yeah.
Okay. Second one, I'm going to pass it back to you and see what you can come up with.
We're so organized, as you can tell. Yeah, we're trying to focus on people, like, as we mentioned, that made a positive impact on society while they were alive.
Yeah.
Whereas some people, you know, maybe post, you know, their lives, people look back at their works and they're like, wow, that was good. We were thinking of like C.S. Lewis, and like his works have really impacted a lot of culture, but less when he was alive. We might still do him. And obviously there's heroes, like people that save somebody from a burning building or something like that, which is amazing, impressive. But we're looking at more like culturally changing society heroes. So that's kind of what we're going with now.
Yeah.
It could change, you know, a couple episodes in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool.
Very cool.
Great definition.
Thank you. All right. Well, we're going to start. We're changing this up a little bit where Caleb is going to read my script and I'm going to read his because we only research certain parts of this person's life.
Yes.
Not parts of them.
It'd be a whole different show if we did that.
And
I got his ankles. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to start with a story and then kind of share about this guy's life and bring it back over to you.
Yeah. So just to be clear, we wrote scripts separately on different parts of his life. And then right before we started the podcast, we sent them to each other.
Yes.
So we haven't had time to read through the other person's notes.
Yeah.
We're going to kind of be learning as we go, as you guys are learning. Yeah. So we're just trying it out. See,
Lots of
thought it'd be fun. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, Christina,
all right,
take it away.
And now for the story. In the summer of 1833, in a quiet house outside of London, an old man lay in bed too weak to sit up. He was 73, and his body had been betraying him for most of his life. Twisted with illness since his 20s, kept upright some days only by the medicine his doctors had given him for the pain. He had never been a soldier. He had never led an army or ruled a kingdom, but by most measures of the era, he was an unlikely candidate for greatness. A small man with weak eyes, better known in his younger years for his wit at dinner parties than anything that would be considered world-changing ambition. But 46 years earlier, something in him had changed. He wrote in his diary that God had set before him 2 great tasks, and from that day forward, he gave his life to one of them above all, ending the slave trade of human beings across the Atlantic Ocean. He was 28 the first time he stood up in Parliament and spoke for 3.5 hours about the horrors most men of the world around him would rather not look at directly. Many of these men owed their fortunes to the very system he was asking them to dismantle. They voted him down. He tried again the next year, and the year after that, and the year after that. 18 years of standing up, laying out the same facts, and losing. He was 38 when the tide finally turned in 1807. The slave trade itself was outlawed, but it wasn't enough, and he knew it. Millions of people were still enslaved, so he kept going until his body had almost nothing left to give. And that man was William Wilberforce.
William Wilberforce.
Yes.
WW.
Which is a very cool name.
It really is.
Yeah.
What's William is short for, you could say William is Will. It's not like Richard where it has a, you could say somebody with Richard's name is Dick.
Some people say Bill for Will.
Bill? That's what it is.
Yeah, which is a strange one.
We'll split the difference. We'll call him William Wilberforce.
How honoring. I love it. Okay, so we're going to dig a little bit into William's childhood and kind of his rise to greatness, which I'm so excited because I didn't research this part about him. So learning with you. So William Wilberforce was born in 1759 in Kingston upon Hull, England. It's a cool town. Yeah. Into a wealthy merchant family. His father ran a very successful trading business. He was a small, sickly child with poor eyesight for his whole life. Physically, nobody would have picked him out as a future political force. His father died when he was 9, and he was sent to live with his aunt and uncle in London, where he was first exposed to evangelical Christianity. His aunt was close with the same circle that would matter enormously to his life later on. His mother, who was worried about this religious influence, most of England at the time was a part of the Anglican Church, which was a bit more high church, not quite like Catholicism, but a bit more structured and liturgical.
And how much THC do you think they were consuming weekly?
What?
They're the
high church. Probably not much, maybe more tobacco.
Okay, continue.
So I found that interesting that, most of England at that time was very Anglican and wasn't as favorable to what we would consider more evangelical Christianity today.
Yeah.
So his mother, worried about the religious influence, brought him back to his hometown and steered him towards a more conventional, societally ambitious upbringing, where you kind of reach the high ranks of culture. He ended up going to Cambridge, which by his own account, he mostly coasted through. He was charming, he was well-liked, and not especially serious about anything. It's also where he became great friends with a fellow student named William Pitt.
Another William.
Yeah. Who would later become the Prime Minister of Great Britain at age 24.
Wow.
That's so impressive.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. And he would stay Wilberforce's political ally for his life. And he's very important to the story later on. William, the Wilberforce one, inherited a large fortune from his grandfather and his uncle as a young man, which meant he entered into adulthood rich, socially connected, and by his own description, mostly aimless in life.
Look at that.
So nothing about his childhood kind of screams like, I'm a future reformer of society or a successful politician. Does this, Caleb, personally surprise you that someone could spend their early years kind of coasting through life and still end up being kind of a successful person later on?
It does surprise me, not as much as it used to. I always thought that successful people or people who had an impact were that from day one. Mm-hmm. But throughout life, I've seen people who have coasted actually turn into some pretty incredible role models in my life.
Yeah.
And so I think it's not necessarily luck of the draw, mm-hmm. but I think that he probably got his direction in life later on.
Yeah.
And that happens for some people a lot earlier and for some people not at all. Mm-hmm. And for him, it happened just a little bit later. And so it is surprising mm-hmm. that somebody who kind of coasted on his charm and his good looks became such an influential person. Mm-hmm. But I think that I can tolerate it a lot better now because being somebody who didn't have a lot of charm or good looks as a young,
pretty good looking.
Well, I mean, in my teen years,
so was William, but he just was kind of a bum.
Yeah. Exactly. For somebody who didn't feel that, they were charming or good looking.
Yeah.
I hate to admit that William Wilberforce, turned into somebody who was influential as well as charming and well liked.
Yeah.
But it's a reality we all have to live with, and I'm willing to live with it.
I love that you don't have to be perfect. All your upbringing, there's always time to change and do something great with your life.
Yeah. How does that question hit you?
I mean, I think it's very true. Just like we went through last season, 8 villains, I believe, who had kind of things stacked against them, just like William Wilberforce, losing a parent at a young age,
Yes.
or not having a good parent.
A father specifically.
Yes. Yeah. A father. Yep. And all of those villains, they had opportunities to not go the direction they did.
Yes.
Just like William did. He could have just been a rich socialite, and he ends up changing world history.
Which is pretty crazy because there's a classic saying, I don't know if this is directly from comic books or if this is an actual saying in real life, but you either, like, if you have something tragic happen to you when you're a child, you either live the rest of your life trying to make sure that that doesn't happen to anybody else, or you live the rest of your life punishing the world for what it took from you.
Yeah.
And it seems like he went the opposite direction. He was like, I just want to protect people. I want to help. I want to be a positive influence rather than take out his own hurt on the world. So it is interesting. That's in comic books and in movies, that's a hero trope. Yeah. But it's true.
Yes.
Seemingly true throughout history.
Yeah. Huh. I think the quote you're looking for is, with great power comes great
No, it's not that.
I know. All right, moving on. All right, so now on to...
That was good. That was really good. I like that.
Now moving on to William's rise to greatness, which was getting into politics, which is an interesting... It was kind of more fashionable to be in politics back in the day. People couldn't vote. Like, common folk weren't allowed to vote back in England, or kind of the British culture back then. But if you were a part of Parliament, you really could make a big change on society. So Wilberforce entered Parliament in 1780 at just 21 years old, which was wild because his good friend, what was his name? William Pitt became prime minister at 24. Wow. So they were all in this together.
Well, I guess you didn't live very long back then.
That's
true. That was kind of like middle age.
Yeah. I mean, you actually, well, just funny because it's like William described his life as kind of aimless, and yet like he joined Parliament at 21. It just shows how much quicker people grew up back then, and how much more you were expected to function as an adult. Yeah. So he entered Parliament at 21 years old, representing his hometown of Hull and later Yorkshire. And at this point, he was in it for the social status just as much as anything else. Yeah. Brought you high society. In about 1784 to 85, everything shifted for William, though. During a trip through Europe with his old schoolmaster, Isaac Milner, he got into a series of long conversations with Isaac that led him through a religious conversion he later called the Great Change. Specifically, they read this book or discussed it on the journey through Europe. It was by Philip Doddridge, and it was called The Rise and Progress of Religion in the Soul. So it was kind of focused on your personal relationship with God. He was very moved and convicted by this book and the talks and the importance of really being rooted in his faith rather than just kind of being a nominal Christian. So he seriously considered quitting politics to become a part of the Anglican clergy. Wow. Yeah. But the person who talked him out of this was, ironically, John Newton, who was a former slave ship captain who had had his own conversion experience decades earlier and was actually an Anglican minister. Newton, he wrote the hymn Amazing Grace.
Newton did?
Yeah.
Wow.
And which is part of kind of his story set to music, Amazing Grace, God saved a wretch like me. He was a slave trader. And then got saved, joined the Anglican Church as a minister. But
William Wilberforce didn't write Amazing Grace?
No. But his good friend did.
I thought for sure he did. That's even in my own notes. It says he doesn't. And you know where I learned that? Adventures in Odyssey.
Yep. I remember the episode. Yep. And you could hear the water and stuff. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay, sorry. Continue.
Anyways, that's a good throwback. So his friend who had, kind of gone through the same process as him and was actually a minister in the Anglican Church was like, yo, don't. He probably said yo for sure. Yeah. He's like, yo, William, don't drop Billy. Out of politics. Use what God's given you, your desire to promote Christian values in Parliament. Mm-hmm. So he stayed in Parliament and used this position to bring influence and change. And his good friend William Pitt, the prime minister, also pushed him towards this as well.
Wow.
To pick a cause and fight for it.
Okay. So recruited into the cause. Probably start there. So May 22nd, 1787, the Society for Effecting the Abolition of Slave Trade was founded. This is mostly Quakers in this society.
Yeah.
Plus the Anglicans, Thomas Clarkson and Granville Sharp. Quakers and other dissenters were barred from sitting in Parliament, so the society needed a sympathetic member of Parliament to carry the fight into the Commons. Thomas Clarkson played the key role in recruiting Wilberforce to the cause. So May 12th, 1787, his friend William Pitt, we remember also, fun fact, great-great-grandfather of Brad Pitt. Just kidding. It would be great.
Yeah.
William Pitt, who is now the prime minister, reportedly pressed Wilberforce, saying, "Oh, my good Wilberforce, why don't you give notice of a motion on the subject of the slave trade? You have already taken great pains to collect evidence. Don't lose time, or the ground will be occupied by another. I'm Brad Pitt's great.
That part wasn't part of the original, yes.
Yeah, that he trails off. So Wilberforce later recalled resolving at that spot to bring the motion forward. On October 28th, 1787, the same year, Wilberforce's diary entry, the line that framed his life's mission was, "God Almighty has set before me two great objects, the suppression of the slave trade and the reformation of manners," or also meaning morals.
Yeah.
So the parliamentary fight. Now we get into him fighting for the abolition of the slave trade. So 1789 presented the first abolition bill in Parliament. He spoke for 3.5 hours, laying out the trade's horrors in detail, and the bill still failed. He continued to introduce abolition legislation in the Parliament nearly every year for the next 18 years without success. He partnered with Thomas Clarkson, who spent years traveling the country gathering evidence, interviewing sailors who had worked the slave ships, collecting physical artifacts like shackles, branding irons, and thumb screws to show Parliament and the public exactly what the trade involved. Petitions. So he petitioned in 1791 and 1792 for Provincial Anti-Slavery Societies coordinated 519 petitions carrying about 390,000 signatures, so roughly 20% of Britain's adult male population at the time, an unprecedented mass mobilization. At the time, the working class was not allowed to vote, so this is the only way of showing their support for the abolition of slavery. I did not know the working class couldn't vote back then.
Yeah, isn't that wild? And if you think about 20% of men in Britain signing these petitions, that's an enormous amount. I mean, as I said, nearly 400,000. If you imagine that in America, the millions of people, like that's a large percentage who's taking the effort to have their voices heard on this specific issue of ending slavery.
Yeah, it is a significant amount.
Yeah.
So William Fox's 1791 pamphlet, An Address to the People of Great Britain, went through 26 editions and 200,000 plus copies in under a year, urging households to stop buying slave-grown sugar. An estimated 300,000 to 400,000 Britons boycotted West Indian sugar in the early 1790s, so that sugar sales dropped by over a third. So they boycotted sugar.
Yeah, because it was produced because slaves were the ones who.
Yes, I said
cultivated it
to support slavery, but in anti-support of slavery.
Yes, to support the slaves not being slaves. Yes. Which again is kind of wild if you think about a third of all sugar sales in the period of a year just dying out.
Just dropped.
That would have massively impacted a lot of industry as well.
I don't know if that could happen in the U.S. today.
I know. We're way
I don't
too
think
addicted
people
to
could.
sugar.
Yeah. That's the big problem is we're addicted to it.
Yeah. And in my
Yeah.
research on the sugar boycott, they said that it was kind of women's way of also supporting the cause because they were the ones who bought the sugar, cooked for their home. And so they were less likely to sign the petitions because women weren't really as valued for their voices. But they kind of, voted through boycotting sugar.
So women voted through boycotting sugar to end slave trade.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the original Whole 30 diet, if you think about it, like just if you think about it.
If you really think about it.
Actually, if you don't think about it too much, it makes sense. So let's get to the happy part.
Yes.
The end of the slave trade. You've taken some great notes here.
Oh, thank you.
I like this. After 18 years of presenting the argument to outlaws, the slave trade... Sorry. I really messed that sentence up. After 18 years of presenting the argument to outlaw the slave trade, in 1807, the Slave Trade Act passes. This ended the slave trade, not slavery itself, across the British Empire, the second country to do so after Denmark. I had zero clue.
Isn't that wild?
Denmark was the first.
Yeah. So
Wow.
it was Denmark/Norway. They were kind of a kingdom together at that time. But this stood out to me because it wasn't just in the UK that they ended the slave trade.
Yeah.
It was the whole British Empire.
What?
Which, if you know anything about the British Empire, it was like the sun never sets on Britain because it was all across the world.
Yeah.
So they were outlawing something that really impacted a large portion of the globe. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's cool.
Yeah.
I did not know that. But William Wilberforce did not stop. He spent the next 26 years pushing for full emancipation of enslaved people, not just an end to the trafficking of those people. He also founded or backed reform causes beyond slavery, such as prison reform, animal welfare, missionary societies, and aid for the poor. The West India Lobby, which is plantation owners, merchants, ship investors, represented major economic interests tied to slavery and heavily fought against William. He faced ridicule, personal attacks, but he persevered even in the midst of being in poor health and great pain from ulcerative colitis for his whole life. Wow.
Yeah.
My dad had colitis.
Really?
Yeah.
He's fine.
Yep, and he didn't end slavery. So.
Come on, Dad.
Yeah, I know. Get your stuff together.
William beat him to it.
Yeah, we love you, Oscar. Thanks for having me. All right, so his death. Let's talk a little bit about that. I actually don't know nothing about his death,
yeah.
so this is gonna be interesting for me. He retired from Parliament in 1825 due to declining health, probably from the colitis,
Yes.
but continued campaigning for the end of slavery. Wow, he retired.
And still kept
And
going for it.
continued campaigning. Good for him.
Decades, yeah.
So July 26, 1833, the Slave Abolition Bill passed. Wilberforce, he was alive, and he wrote that day, quote, "Thank God that I should have lived to witness a day in which England is willing to give 20 millions sterling for the abolition of slavery," end quote. The 20 million pounds was compensation that was paid to slave owners, about 5% of Britain's GDP at the time. That's huge.
Yeah.
That's really huge. The British government only finished paying off the debt taken on to fund it in 2015.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So part of the agreement of ending slavery, because they'd ended the slave trade, but anybody who was still a slave was a slave.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, we will pay the slave owners money to make up for them having to set their slaves free. And it took them over 150 years, Britain, to pay off that debt.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's kind of wild. So it was a significant amount of money.
So there were still people like receiving payments.
I don't know that they weren't receiving payments. It was kind of like Britain was in debt for 170
They finally recovered.
years. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yes.
William died 3 days later. Wow. After the abolition of the slave. What?
Yeah.
Really? Wow. After the bill was passed, he died 3 days later on July 29th, 1833 at the age of 73. He was buried in Westminster Abbey near his friend, Prime Minister William Pitt. Wow. You know, some people say William Pitt is Brad Pitt's great.
So silly.
Wow.
But isn't
that's
that
amazing.
amazing? Like he fought from, his early 20s
Yeah.
until pretty much the day he died. And this bill passed to end slavery across the entire British Empire 3 days before he passed away.
Super
and he did
impressive.
it all through poor health, ridicule, great sickness and pain.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And he didn't write Amazing Grace.
No.
This is an incredible person. This is a hero, to be sure. A hero of history. What do you think, now that we've done villains of history and heroes of history, what do you think was the greatest difference that made him a hero versus, maybe, let's word it like this. What was the transitional moment that he chose to be a hero instead of a villain that you can see from your perspective?
Well, I think first off, it was the people that he surrounded himself with, either intentionally or not, like his old professor who went on that trip with him to Europe, and they talked about Christianity and, obviously God's heart for not enslaving people, that all people are created equal. We don't know the details of their conversation, but obviously he came away with a desire to really live his faith, and as well as I think his friends around him, William Pitt and John Newton, that were encouraging him. And he listened to their advice. Unlike many of the villains that we learned about, they were very hard-headed and pushed people away, were isolated, or just wanted to be the best or dominate. Whereas William, he's listening to William Pitt, who's the prime minister, and actually respecting him, not trying to take his place, but stand up for a cause. And the same thing for John Newton, listening to a little bit of an older man and a pastor on their advice.
Wow. Yeah. I think
so there's
that's
humility
the biggest
there.
difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
And he wasn't trying to be great. Unlike a lot of these villains, they wanted to be the best. They wanted to take over the world, lead an empire. And he had the opportunity to do things like that with his wealth, but he chose to fight for the end of slavery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think that those people he put in the place of being mentors in his life probably changed the entire course of his life. Because I agree. I think that's a big difference between a villain and a hero is the people that they surround themselves with.
Yeah.
The advice they surround themselves with. Because you're right. A lot of the villains had nobody, or they had really terrible people, like an abusive father or something like that. But it really seems like the mentors in his life took the place of that father.
Yeah.
They may have been similar ages, but they spoke wisdom and he listened to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. A pretty impressive life.
Really impressive.
Yeah, not somebody who necessarily, died for a cause or, was burned at the stake or people like that we've researched in the past, but he dedicated his life for a long period of time, which I think is where true heroism comes in. Like you can be a hero in a moment, saving somebody but he stood for this until his last breath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great point. Great man.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm scared to look more into him.
Yeah. It might
'Cause I'm
ruin
sure-
it. There's probably some dark
I'm
stuff
sure
in
there's
his
some
past.
weird dark secret in his past. He's like, I'm sexually attracted to bees or something like that. And
I
I'm
mean,
like,
yeah,
okay,
I didn't look
whatever.
into if he married, if he had children, any
Yeah.
of that. But that'd be something for the future because we did that with the villains. We pointed
Totally.
out a couple of their good qualities. So we should be more
Open-minded with
yes,
that.
and holistically robust with.
Yeah.
Not every, just like Martin Luther, he had some good stuff, and
He had some real bad stuff.
same with Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
Good
totally.
stuff, a lot of bad
A
stuff.
lot of bad stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll add some of that next time, or at least not avoid it.
Yes,
I didn't
exactly.
find
It didn't
anything
come
this
up,
time.
so, yeah.
So, but yeah, just with the way society is right now, it's tough to
Right.
look
Did
up
you
to anybody.
know? Yes.
Yeah. He has ducks fight to the death in his basement. It's like, I didn't need to know that. Okay. Well, great job, babe.
Yeah,
I loved
thank you.
reading your notes. I think they're very comprehensive.
Yeah, it was interesting. We're learning as we're learning with you all. Thank
Yeah.
you. Hopefully that was enjoyable.
Yeah. Well, next on this podcast, we like to recommend something to our lovely stuffies out there. So, babe, We will recommend.
Okay. My recommend is something pretty practical. It's not super fun, but I think it could lead to your life being more fun.
Okay.
Sit down and write out the amount of time you spend on things each week. I did this recently with the amount of, 40 hours a week I'm committed to work. I'm doing a full-time master's program. I'm a part of a worship team 5 times a week. We do this podcast, church, small groups, working out, all that, adding it all up. And I came away with, oh my gosh, no wonder I'm a little bit of an anxious wreck most of the time. I am doing more than there are physically hours in a day if I want to sleep kind of a thing. Of course, with 40 hours a week of work, sometimes it's a little bit more or less, things like that. But generally around that mark. And so I think it's good to write it all down and see where you're giving your time to. I think many people are either two extremes. They're not maybe busy enough. They don't do anything all day, both days of the weekend, and just watch TV for 8 hours.
Yeah.
Which, that's nice. But also it's I do actually have time to invest in a hobby or being a part of a small group or, being outside doing sports. And then there's the other extreme where people are doing too much and therefore not doing everything very well. They're just kind of mostly making it through life. So that was a good evaluation for me, just to write it all down and see it on paper and be I am doing too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Cutting back on some stuff in the next week or so. I'll still be very busy, but I think I'll be able to do the things I'm focused on well.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
That's very much so up my alley. I like that reminder.
Thank you.
To do that.
Yeah, because we have such a hustle culture in America where it can be kind of glorified to be whenever, how are you doing? Oh, I'm busy.
Yeah.
It's we're supposed to be active and busy, but not so busy that I don't know, we can't think right.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And I've been going to a men's Bible study the past couple of weeks. And one thing they have you do at the very beginning is to sit down with somebody you don't know and talk to them. You're supposed to ask them who they are, what they do, and then where they're going. Because as men or as human beings, we always ask somebody else, hey, what do you do for a living? That hustle culture thing this is the most important thing about you. But then you ask somebody where you're going, and you can even ask that with a little perspective on the eternity. Hey, are you going to heaven?
Yeah.
And you ask somebody where you're going, it's just takes away all of what matters right now. Put your focus on eternity and being oh, the job that I just told you about that gives me a lot of credibility in my own mind actually means 0 in the next life. And so if I'm prioritizing that and giving that 60 hours, is that really having the impact on my eternal future that I want it to have? So I like that. Look at your life and count up the hours.
Yeah.
Because in eternity, is it really going to matter how much more time you spent at work because you wanted to look like you were working harder than everybody else?
Yeah.
Is it really going to impact your eternal identity, or is it just something you're holding on to? And in reality, you could let go of those extra hours at work and spend more time with your family, which would be the priority.
Yes. Yeah. That was one big thing for me looking at my schedule. Because since I started back with a full-time job and school and various 20, 30 hours a week of other stuff I'm committed to, I haven't had, usually I get together with my mom and grandma once a week for lunch, and I haven't really had time or capacity to do that. They'll come over and hang out with me while I'm on my 30-minute lunch break from work, but we're not able to fully engage with each other. And I was my grandma, she's amazing, and she's 83, and she lives 10 minutes away from me, and my mom lives right up the street, and I don't know in 10 years from now if that will be the same case.
Yeah.
And this is the opportunity in life to invest in things that matter, like your relationship with your family over other things.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's a good one.
Thank you.
I like that.
Thank you.
So what would you say in a sentence? How would you say that?
Write down the hours of your week that you're committed to everything.
Gotcha.
And even add in there working out, sleep, all of that, and see if what you're trying to attempt is feasible. Or the flip side, I have so much extra time that I'm just spending on Instagram that I actually could invest in better things.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I'm going to add on to that. I'm going to tag a little
Tag on,
ponytail
recommend.
at the end. Yeah. Eliminate, after you've evaluated how much time you're spending on stuff, eliminate anything that is not necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Like we just talked about, like anything that's a net negative in your life should be eliminated.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that is, excessive drinking, whether that's just too much Netflix, whether that's spending time with the wrong friends. When you get to be in our old wise age of 32 years old, you start to realize that time is precious.
Yes,
And
it is.
I'm not saying that we're super old or super wise. That was a joke, everybody. But time is becoming more precious to me. And anything that is a net negative in your life is stealing your most precious asset, which is time. So get rid of it. Yeah.
It's good. It's good advice.
Thanks.
Man, we got so philosophical.
I know.
Yeah.
All right, let's let's wrap this baby up.
All right.
So you can contact me or Christina at this podcast email, which is
Stuff That We Like podcast @gmail.com.
yes. You can follow us on Apple and Spotify. Please give us a like and share us. It really helps people find us. You can also watch us on YouTube. We're on there at Stuff That We Like podcast at YouTube. Christina's on Instagram at
See Joyfully.
nice. This podcast is on Instagram at
Stuff That We Like podcast.
I'm on Instagram at
Caleb C Media.
I do commercial videography, photography, music scoring, and you can reach me through my email at
CalebMediaCo@gmail.com.
close.
Okay.
Caleb C Media Co at
Okay, that
gmail.
makes
You almost
sense.
had it though.
Thank you.
That was really good. All of my music is on all platforms under Caleb Castaneda, and I think that's all we got this
Yeah,
week.
please write in, give us advice, comments, feedback, suggestions
Yes.
for next topics. Next week, we're going to do a episode focused on one of our listeners' topics that they've recommended.
Yeah.
So that'll be really fun.
We're excited.
Yeah, and thank you for joining us once again. This has been Stuff That We Like /enjoy, at least this point in time, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.